What's up, everyone, and welcome to the 29th episode of the Envision Game Podcast. I'm your host, Brad's Gaming, and as always, I'm joined by Clownish Joe
Hello, everyone.
and Triple Bravo.
Howdy, folks.
So for question of the week, we wanted to ask, what are the most disappointing game that you've had for 2021? Something you were hyped about, and you ended up being let down. Obviously, that's going to be also our topic, is games that have flopped, just from either being a bad game or having issues on release, um, issues currently still, possibly if they haven't been fixed. And we're going to go over all of those, so you'll hear ours once we get to the games themselves. But before we jump into the actual games themselves, we wanted to ask ourselves, why do we think the games are launching unfinished and having these types of issues when back in the day it seemed it was very rare? How about you, Bravo? You got any input here? What are you feeling?
I can't tell if the pressure is too high, for like stockholders or something, or they just, if I can put on my conspiracy hat for a second, maybe they found out that if they release a somewhat complete game, get the whole, no press is bad press kind of a thing where everybody's crapping all over the game, and then 6 months later, when their player base has died, they can come back with a redemption arc where, like, oh my god, I fixed all of the things, and they'll get like a second, uh, little spike in players and purchases and stuff. Other than that, I don't know.
With that thought, though, I do think that kind of works because if it's a game that you're hyped enough about, unless you get such a bad taste in your mouth from that initial release, I do feel like it kind of works because there have been games where I've been disappointed, and then after it's like, oh look, they fix things, and now I'm back to being excited, or they fix it and then they end up releasing some expansion pack or a one of the season pass type things or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like it's a way that they could kind of do that. They kind of get you initially for the hype, and then you're like, ah, crap. And then later on, it's like, oh, we fixed everything, and we released more content. So then you end up paying even more money for the more content or something.
I actually like the like season passes and stuff. I think that has some really good potential because it's like a contract between you and the devs, right? They're going to say, "All right, you give us a little bit more money and we promise you we will develop a little bit more of a thing." And usually they kind of have it planned out, like we'll do 3 expansions this year, we'll do da 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 da. Now if that company actually sticks to that plan, that's another thing, but it's like a contract between you and the dev,
Yeah.
which is
I have mixed feelings about season passes. So if it's a game that I obviously play a lot, so in the instance of Smite, in the instance of League, like sure, I can get through those season passes. But then there's like stuff in those season passes that you can only get through the season pass naturally. But then there's games like Fortnite and stuff that I'll play like very seldomly, or even Smite at this point. And I want to do the season pass because I enjoy having something to grind for. But then if I don't complete the season pass, I'm SOL and out of the money, and I don't get all of the content
yeah.
that was supposed to be given to me.
One thing that so I'm gonna use Rocket League as an example. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. It's gonna come up. Uh, Before they were sold, their battle pass, or not battle pass, their pass was probably my favorite because if you completed the whole pass, which wasn't that hard because they changed their leveling system to be equal XP for every level a long time ago, uh, you would actually get the pass's worth in game currency. And that's one thing
Yeah.
I've never understood why game developers hold so close to the chest. Like you should be like giving people an incentive to like have that currency or use that currency, and it just seems like they don't give it out enough. Like ESO comes to mind, stuff like that.
I know
But
Fortnite runs the same way with
Yeah.
if you buy one, you'll make enough to buy another.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool little concept, you know? And, it's kind of like one of those things, like, once you kind of open up your pocketbook, you're probably more likely to spend money again on that. So if you...
Yeah, that's like
Yeah.
scientifically
If
proven. That's
you're...
mobile games to a nutshell.
Yeah, if you're appealing to the player base, you're like, hey, man, you buy this battle pass, you're playing it a whole lot right now, you're going to get all your money's worth in the game. It's like you never even spent the money. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, even so the season passes, for example, like they even go into single player games like Resident Evil, for example, like where like Resident Evil has the not season pass, but like an expansion pack, whatever pass, where Resident Evil 7 had the extra content, and where you played as I think it was Jack's brother, which I can't remember his name right now. And it was like completely different. Some of them I think are I like extra content sometimes, but I also feel like games are relatively long already nowadays, and depends on the game itself. I mean, some games you just want to keep playing. Some of them you're like, all right, is this gonna ever end? Like the Assassin's Creed games, right? Like they come out with those the expansion packs and everything, or whatever they are, and it's just like nonstop content. I mean, my buddy puts like 200 hours into these games, and and then he's like, well, they just released another pack, so I got to go out and grind away at this.
I don't know. I like to look at the game to like an hour to dollar ratio. And if it's a game you enjoy, like those Assassin's Creeds, and obviously they're bloated with stuff to do, as repetitive as it is. But if that's what you're into and you like that big open world grindy feel, I mean, you get massive bang for your buck in those type of games.
Yeah, I mean I think that's
You're
why
paying
I
like
don't
25 cents an hour at that point.
Yeah, and I think that's why I don't mind, like if it's a game I know I'm going to play and enjoy, it's like what does it matter, if I'm putting money like Hearthstone, like I don't care when I purchase like the new expansion or the season pass or whatever the battle pass thing, whatever. The hero skins and stuff like that, because it's like I put enough time into the game where it's like I get my value of it worth out of. So, but if I was just playing it and I put like 2 hours into it per season, let's say, then it kind of runs the tuition. I feel like we got sidetracked on these.
I've been giggling about it like, man, we really got off on a tangent.
I'm trying to think. I'm like, how did
we just went down a few different roads.
Somebody mentioned subscriptions or passes or something, and we just ran with it.
But back to my thoughts on why games are unfinished.
Okay, all right. 1 second. One little cherry on top. Shadow of Mordor, the single player game that had loot crates and whatnot. That's the epitome of ridiculous. Like, you should not have that. Don't do that. Developers out there, don't. Okay, moving on. Games we saw flop in 20...
Sir, could I have my moment?
No,
Yeah, well,
no.
Can we talk about this?
We're done.
Yeah,
That's the cherry.
Only gets to talk?
That's the cherry.
Get him out of here. But I think games are launching unfinished for a multitude of reasons. One being that literally just getting a game out there gets money into developers' pockets, so they don't have to pay all the upfront costs for development. So once they release the game and make money and release an unfinished game, they make the money that they could keep putting back into the game instead of having to shell it all out up front. So there's that. There's the fact that devs, maybe not all devs, but a good majority of them, or whoever are making the games, are just so out of touch with the gaming community that they think they're doing things right, and then the community gets their hands on it and they're just like, what were you thinking? Cough, Halo, cough.
It's also like a hard thing to quantify, right? Like if you're like a shareholder in some company, or you're like one of the big wigs at a development company, and you've just made $30 million off of a game release, yet your reviews of the game are like pretty low, you're like, well, we hit all marks, but they're never going to see that future, that alternate timeline where if they actually release like the complete product, maybe they'd have $40 million or, more than that. Like, who knows? And it's that disconnect where they don't even understand that they're losing money. Well, assuming they're
losing
money.
Potential.
all you goofballs out there pre-ordering games, soaking up that hype train, whatever.
I just want to say this year has absolutely killed any hope of me pre-ordering any game but Elden Ring. I will literally not pre-order a game again.
I have 2 games right now that I will, and it's God of War and Elden Ring. That's it.
Unless they announce a new Silent Hill, then I'll pre-order 2.
My only exception to that is a game called Ashes of Creation, which is an MMO that I hope does well. But I've already given them my money, but it's very easily going to turn into a Star Citizen type situation where they're constantly developing, asking for money, and just never deliver the complete product. But we'll see.
I guess, do you have any other points, Joe, you were gonna?
Probably, but not off the top of my head at the moment.
Yeah, so I think part of it is also just where gaming is headed. As now, when you look at AAA space, not so much the indie space, these games are just absolutely massive. And graphically, they're, looking almost so real, it's insane. Literally, Bravo and I were watching the Hellblade, send you the trailer.
Hellblade 2.
Yeah, Hellblade 2. And I'm like, is this real? Is it CG? I don't know. I literally couldn't tell for.
Is that a giant baby in the ocean? I can't tell if that's real or not.
Is that a real baby? I don't know. But it's just it really is getting wild. And I think what it is it's pushing the development cycle much longer because people want these open world massive games. They with the Breath of the Wild syndrome that's happened nowadays. Everybody's got to make something Breath of the Wild style, so it's got to be at minimum 25 plus hours, for it to be even considered decent, it seems. But I kind of miss like those AA games, give me that solid, maybe it's like a little more budget, good solid game that hits you for somewhere between 6 to 10 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's solid. You don't need to have something bloated like the Assassin's Creed games, but there's
definitely a market for it, though.
There is. I think, well, kind of, right? Kind of like $40, real solid game, and it wasn't super long, right?
No, it wasn't that long. I think I probably got between 6 and 8 hours out of it, but it also wasn't some super in-depth game. It was, if it wasn't for the graphics, I probably would have rated it quite a bit lower.
Yeah, but I'm saying, I guess what it is for the developers. I'm trying to look at it from their standpoint of they're 5 years deep into a game, and it's like by that point you're basically looking at it's getting to. I got sidetracked. I just thought of something. So it's getting almost to the point where if somebody starts a game in the beginning of a console cycle, they might finish it towards the end of it. That's how long the length of development is. If it's like a new IP, right? Like God of War took 5 years to make. So of course it's not going to take another 5 years. I think when did it come out? It might be another 5 years.
I think it's been 5 years.
Yeah. So think if they had to build it from the ground up again, there's a chance it could have been even longer.
And they've already decided that they're not going to have a trilogy. They're just going to have the 2.
Yeah.
And that might be, motivation from the actual development team. They're like, hey, I don't want to spend my whole life career on this one game.
Yeah,
Well, I'm
God of
pretty sure
War.
like the lead developer said he didn't want to do another 5 years that it would take to make a third one. So
Yeah.
they made it 2.
I think he's like burnt out. Like it's
Yeah.
and so they're trying to. I just hope that they are able to shove everything that they wanted to into it, and they don't have to cut anything massive. That would be, you know,
Mhm.
something that we would like to have seen as fans.
Preach it,
But
sister.
anyways, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we have to like step back and like realistically, I feel like indie games have kind of blown up as well. And
Yeah.
I think
and
we're witnessing the death of AAA games. And
Yeah,
the
like-
rise of indie.
I really I buy like maybe one AAA game a year. Maybe. It depends on what it is. Like I think this year's the only thing I really bought that was like AAA was Resident Evil. I can't think of anything else that I bought. Now the other thing is this year didn't have, I don't feel like, many banger
Big
games.
releases. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't
mean,
like a
I definitely think 2021 was one of the worst years in gaming in quite a
it
while.
was pretty weak.
I mean, we even said during like what was it? Not the Game Awards, but the Golden Joysticks, and I think you guys did mention it during the Game Awards that like all of the Game of the Year nominees, it's just kind of like, do I have to pick one?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, I remember
realistically-
making the joke because it was like, all right, nominees are games that were actually completed. Here we go. We got there's 3 of them.
I mean, they're the games that are on this list that we have for the ones that flopped. They're pretty big games. Some of them are, and if they didn't have the issues they did, they could have been a Game of the Year, contender. The fact that, no offense to It Takes Two, but like in the previous years, it probably wouldn't have even been on the list.
I don't even think it would have been close in previous years.
No, think about 2017 when it was like Breath of the Wild, and I think 2017 was also like God of War, or
God of War
I
was
could be
2018.
2018. Okay,
I think it would have won awards for like creativity or narration or whatever, but not Game of the Year.
It wouldn't have been in the game of the year. Like with the games, when you see like a couple of the big game names, right? Like even 2022, I don't think it would be in 2022's list. Just from
based off what we know already.
Yeah, like I mean, Horizon. You've got Horizon. This is just off the top of the head. Horizon, Elden Ring, God of War, possibly Breath of the Wild 2, and I'm sure you can slot in a 5th one as well. That alone right there is a pretty big year.
Mort the Messiah.
And then Mort, baby.
Coming in.
So, anyways, we're getting along on this little thing. So let's jump into our first game, which is probably the biggest flop. The hardest. It's debatable. It was definitely the one I was the most surprised about because they didn't really do much on.
Surprised of like how it went because the release was originally like okay, and we did our little review and we were like, yeah, it's pretty good. It's a little goofy looking, but what we expected. And then like the next day, it just all went crashing down.
Mm-hmm.
I know. Were you guys fans of the artistic direction they took or no?
Well, let's announce the game.
Yeah, so it's the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, that the definitive edition, I think it was called, or something like that. I don't know exact name. But it was the 3 games that were re-released on PlayStation 4, Xbox, all modern consoles, and they decided to, I think, put this off to some like third party company.
They did.
I don't even think Rock. Yeah, and I think it was a huge mistake on their part because Rockstar's got a pretty big legacy, and
no, I don't even think that. Like with these kind of things, you have a quality review, right? So Rockstar had to do a quality review, and they put their stamp on it. They're like, "This is fine."
Yeah, that's also the thing, but kind of like what we were saying, are they going to go back and recreate it and put 5 years into it to recreate these?
Does it take 5 years to do what they did? Because it looks like it took them about 2 months.
It doesn't. I mean, the thing is, the mods, if you look at the mods that are out there, they look significantly better. So you literally just modded the game.
So you mentioned the art style. So
Yeah,
the overall art style, like if you're looking at it from Mile High, I actually thought the art style was good. Like the lighting was definitely improved, but it had like a comic book kind of a look to it. Like it upgraded it, but it was like the way you saw, like the way you remembered it. But
yeah,
then you dive a little deeper into it, and they actually, like, some of the models looked worse than the
yeah.
originals, which was
That
just
was
surprising.
Specifically in San Andreas.
yeah. San
Oh yeah.
Andreas, the face of the characters, like it looked like they like crushed their heads or something. I don't know. It was really
Yeah,
strange.
I
So
really liked the art style if they didn't mess up some of the things they did. Because, like Bravo said, it's literally like if I were to sit down and picture in my head what the game looked like that I played in 2000 whatever, it's exactly what they released. And I thought
mhm.
that was a cool concept of it. You know, it still had like that cartoony look that old Grand Theft Auto had, but you knew what it was and it was a lot more crisp. But the fact that they just destroyed character models
Mhm.
is just like,
I
how do you do that?
I guess the only thing I didn't care for is it essentially just looked like a game that could have ran on a PS3.
I
That
mean, it's
was
coming to mobile.
yeah, that's ridiculous. It maybe that's what their focus was on. They were like, "Hey, we're making this for mobile," and they basically made a
Just
mobile
ported
port.
it.
Yeah, maybe that was like the original plan, and they just had it. We're tweaking it more and whatnot. But honestly, it would make more sense of why it looks the way it does.
Hmm.
Um, the the rain from the game too. I noticed this in a few pictures and stuff. It was pretty overwhelming.
It was a
Like
lot, and I feel like in the old games, I feel like I remember it like physically hitting the screen, and you'd get like it
yeah,
was like
I'm
a
pretty sure
windshield
it did that.
one
I'm
shot.
I'm almost positive it did do that. The thing with this is it almost acted like it was just like these random lines that were coming down from
Yeah,
the
it was
sky.
literally white lines if you'd pause
Yeah,
the game.
it's like okay, all right, well, just gonna put lines on the screen, call it rain. A little bit much. Other thing that I think is kind of a big thing, but I understand this can be difficult because think about any game that has soundtracks that are memorable with real artists. Being able to not have all the music, I think, is a kind of a negative.
And the fact that they released the game files with all of the music,
Yeah,
so they
yeah.
actually
So
distributed their like illegally.
They said, "Whoops."
yeah, so I don't. I don't know what their thought process was. I don't know if they just didn't want to buy it. Obviously, I think Billie Jean, for example, is one of them that was left off.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, and I'm sure it's probably very expensive to get Michael Jackson music.
Plus, you're dealing with like the estate at this point. It's not like you're dealing with, his
Yeah.
record label.
Yeah. Um. But anyway, and didn't they? I could be misremembering this. Didn't they swap some of the songs out with other things? Like, so they took Billie Jean out, but they put a different song in.
I
But it
don't
was
believe
like,
so.
or okay, I could be thinking of something else where they did
Yeah,
that.
the big thing that I remember from the GTA trilogy release is they literally removed it from the Rockstar client. So I bought it on PC, played it day one, and then like day 2 through 20, it literally could not be launched because it didn't exist in the Rockstar
Yep.
client.
Thanks for your money, bruh.
And it's just like, what? Like, how? So I immediately got a refund at that point and was like, I'm just not going to do it. Because I own the old copies, but
hmm The old
it
copies
was,
are the way to go. I'm glad I purchased them on PlayStation 4 digitally, so I could just re-download them, whatever.
yeah.
And yeah. Plus the frame rate seemed pretty rough.
I didn't notice it much, but most of the time I spent playing was in GTA 3, which I know is like the best of the remake trilogy.
Seems like San Andreas is the one that got hit the hardest.
Yeah,
Huh.
and I've never played San Andreas before, so I didn't have much to base off of.
I'd never
But the little bit I
noticed.
ran around it was fine, but it looked goofy in times.
Yeah.
I
And then
guess
there
I'm
was
just
also
lucky.
the map that had no collision. and you'd literally just like
Yep.
drive over the ground and just pew right through.
But I thought this was kind of interesting. So I went and I looked at a few of the user scores on Metacritic. It ended up getting a 0.6 on PC. Didn't even get a 0.6. That's how bad the user score was. So, yeah, it clearly didn't go over well for the fans.
Yeah, I get the hate, but that's obviously quite an unfair score.
Oh yeah, no, it is
0.6
unfair.
is literally like Pong
Unplayable
to me. Like Pong that runs at like a frame per second.
Even Pong, I'd give higher than that because it's playable at least,
Yeah.
right? Like it had to be broken.
It had to be like beyond broken. Like, how do you get
Yeah.
less than 1?
Yeah.
The
Pretty wild.
scale's 1 to 10. How do you go under?
So I think we can move on from GTA Trilogy unless you
And
guys
we'll
have anything else to add.
No, I'm good here. It's time to let Brad rant for a bit.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you guys experience this too. So next one is Diablo 2. This made the list because of not really so much for the game itself, but more so of the server issues that Blizzard had. So if it wasn't for the game being such a cult, hit, I think it probably would have died within the first like 3 days. I don't think anybody would have stood up for what it was. I mean, day one, we got on. You guys have heard this story numerous times. I won't drag it on. Got on, couldn't play it for like 6 hours, and then we got on, played it for a bit.
We played like right away, and then the
Yeah.
issue started, and
we had like 30 minutes, I would say, of play,
Yeah.
roughly.
and then we were just like, all right, we'll meet back up after everyone's done work.
Yeah. So but the problem that I have isn't so much like day one. Hey, guess what? Especially with Blizzard, it happens.
Understand why it still happens.
It happens to the best of them, I guess. So I could let like day one stuff kind of slide if that was it, if they figured it out from there on. But this is like you're talking. It was months, like 3-4 months into the release of the game, and they were having server issues still, where you'd be in the queue for like hours trying to get into the game, couldn't get in because they were like restricting people, and they had issues where because they have the old game running in the background and they just kind of plop the new fancy graphics on top. Well, the game knows that, hey, when I click on this town portal, for example, I go through. Well, the fancy graphics have to load, but you're already in the game and they didn't buffer anything, so you can get killed in hardcore without even moving before it loads. So stuff like that is an issue. It's just the one patch they put out for the servers. Also, they were trying to alleviate it. They put the patch out only on PC. They didn't release it in the console. And if you haven't, because you have to verify your account before you can even play for anything, which is the dumbest thing ever for single player, you need to verify it. So these people, if they purchase the game after the patch, they literally couldn't launch the game. Couldn't play it. Like, there's just numerous things that were nonstop issues. The lobbies on console are still completely broken. It's like near impossible to find a game. So, yeah, long story short, has still a lot of issues. They are fixing some things. Honestly, I haven't played it in quite a while. I'm waiting for the new patch to drop before I invest any more time into it because I don't know why invest the time into it when something new, fancy, shiny is going to be coming.
Druid's coming back.
Yeah. So user score for this got a 2.7 on Metacritic. I think this is also kind of harsh. Now, it definitely deserves a bad one. But
To be
like
fair, though, this game was literally unplayable for people.
Yeah, for that one point on consoles, it was like 3 days. It was unplayable completely for console players.
So was GTA.
Yeah, I was gonna just say GTA was the same situation.
Yeah, so I would say both. If I were to say realistically how they are, I can't 100% say for GTA, but I'd probably be like, yo, 5 is probably solid for GTA. With all the issues that happen and stuff, I always say that's like fair because it's not good,
I would say
but
the
it's
majority of these reviews obviously come whenever the game is released, like initially.
yeah,
So you're talking like the first 2 weeks of the game. Well, both these games were
well, it's kind of
unplayable
like
for a lot of people in the first 2 weeks of the game. Like GTA, literally nobody. Sorry
mhm,
about you, buddy.
yeah.
Yep.
But it's funny. I mean, it doesn't mean that these games can't make a comeback. I mean, look at like something like No Man's Sky, where game had a lot of hate because it offered. Well, they were promising a lot and they didn't deliver. And
Mhm.
basically, 4 years later or something like that, they got to where they were promising. I think
Yeah,
so.
now it's just like if you actually released what you said you would, where would we
Mhm.
actually be after 4 years?
He
Yeah, exactly.
Hello Games learned a valuable lesson of media and keeping your mouth shut, because the guy, like, he was talking, you know, I'm sure he meant like in the future, like this is what our vision of the game is. Here it is, but that's not something that they were delivering in the beginning.
Also, don't bite off more than you can chew. I
Yeah,
mean, this was like
exactly.
it was like an 11-person team. I think the only game that they made before that was a game called Joe Danger. Go look that up.
Yeah.
It's it's literally just like a 2D side-scrolling motorcycle game.
Yeah.
Like for what
It's
it was, like without the hype around it, the game was still like really cool on
yeah,
release. It's just there wasn't much to do, but it was
Mhm.
cool.
you
So
just yeah, like I said, you can't hype something up too much and bite off more than you could chew when you're it's not like if we were gonna make a game, we're gonna be like, we're making Minecraft, but with the depth of an RPG like
All right,
Witcher
Oprah.
3.
Oprah,
Skyrim.
listen. This is the game we're developing. Okay. Everybody's gonna get cars after this. Now listen. Here's all the details. It's gonna be great. I can't wait to meet Oprah.
800 by 600.
Isometric view. But let's move on to one I was super excited about.
I
hmm
was too actually, because I am a huge fan of the original like Dark Alliance game, the Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance game on PS2. But go ahead, Joe.
I
I never
also
played
was
the original,
excited.
but I played like some other Dungeons and Dragons games and always
hmm
had fun playing their video games. And Dark Alliance came out, and I was like, "Oh yeah!" And then they were like, "There's an archer," and it was like, "Yes!" And then I played the game, and was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's it."
Yeah.
Like graphics weren't good, animations were bad. You could
Levels.
literally, yeah, levels were not interesting at all. The gameplay was like as bland as you could put it. I was like, what did I play? Like 2 hours of it, and I still thought I was in the tutorial because it was
My
like that stupid.
I want to say my favorite thing was Joe streaming this on Discord. We're watching it. He's kind of like kiting around, but he's pew pewing the whole time. The upper body of the person, like there was almost no animation for the
Yeah,
drawback of
they
the
just
boat. It
like
was just
instantly draw
this,
back and let go.
yeah, and then the legs were just moving. It was like, dude, it was like the upper body was just a statue, and the lower half was running around like crazy.
There was also the fact that like the AI was so bad that like for playing an archer class, what do? You hit things from a range. Well, if you hit things from a range, they don't aggro. So you literally just kill everything and never get attacked.
Yeah, it's
I
that's
remember that.
something that's something I've noticed with a few games where if you use a sniper rifle, if they don't have the AI tweaked correctly, it almost breaks the game. Like basically if you don't know how to work that out, you probably shouldn't have a rifle that has or like you shouldn't have a sniper rifle or
You
some
should
long range
make
item.
the range
Yeah.
capped at where your AI is.
Yeah. Make a melee game. It'll be all right. um this was a surprising one for me too. No local co-op. Like it's kind of surprised about that because that's what
I mean,
was big for the Dark Alliance game back in the day.
how am I gonna local co-op on my PC? We both playing with half a keyboard?
Well, it's for
you get
PC, but
WASD and I get arrows. Come on, bro.
you got
It's like
you
those
got controllers.
old.
You can hook a controller to a laptop and PC. You know,
Yeah, that's doesn't happen. There's no local co-op anymore.
there is.
Yeah,
I've
if you play
seen games.
Nintendo.
Moving Out has it. That's not a Nintendo
I think
game.
Stardew has it.
I don't think Moving Out has local co-op.
Does it? Isn't it like a co-op game? It's like
Yeah, but it's like not. I mean, it might be on like Switch and console, but it's definitely not on PC.
well, Overcooked.
The same situation.
Overcooked is. I played it with I played it
On
with
the
people in my
PC?
house. I don't play anything on PC that's local co-op.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about in the whole, like for things.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, Joe.
that I didn't notice because I played on PC, so it made no difference to me.
Okay. You don't have any friends anyway, so. Oh.
They're all right here.
Now
We're gonna need some long controllers to reach to you guys from here.
I told you,
You
bro.
can-
I'll buy the cup. You buy the string.
we can get some fiber cables going
How
on.
about I buy the cup, you buy the string? That's a lot of string.
So the unless we have more to add on to this, pretty surprisingly, this has the highest score so far, with a 3.2 on Metacritic, and
I think it's warranted.
I would say it's fair. You know, it's funny. I still have this on my like wish list. Like
funny.
I haven't taken it off for whatever reason.
Like, to be fair, the game's bad, but at no point was it unplayable.
Boom.
So I think
Yeah.
it's fair that it's higher. Than both of the other
That's
two.
our threshold.
Yep, it's playable.
So 3.2 is the lowest playable game rating so far.
I think
If
that's
you get
actually
less than 3.2,
yeah.
your game is unplayable.
Yeah, I think that's actually really fair. Like a 3 is okay, your game's playable. Like I got to the final boss, but wow, your game is horrible.
It was not
Like,
good.
holy moly.
Like,
Did you
what were they
intentionally do
thinking?
all this? Yeah.
Yeah. So let's move on to another game that was infamous. People were kind of hyping this up, saying,
I was hyping this up.
"Were you?"
I was actually really excited. I like the art style.
Okay, so the funny thing is people were excited about it, but they also, after it released, were saying this is the like one of the worst games of all time. Like for recent.
It's one of the worst games of all time.
Here's what I've seen though. So I think taking into consideration what the vision for the game was, they wanted to make it for kids specifically, like very, you're talking basic platformer. So every button does the same thing. There's literally one button in the game.
What?
So, yes, there's literally one button. Every button does the exact same thing, no matter what button you hit. You can move, and you have one button, the action button. But the game is based around costumes, so it was originally intended to be also, I believe, a mobile game, because for the simplicity and whatnot. Then they moved it over and still kept the same thing. So every costume has a different ability. So one might have a hopping or jumping ability, or one might have like a gliding one or something. The problem comes to it's so basic that everybody was like, what is this? And it looks like third grader style artwork or something. Like it doesn't look terrible.
I kind of dig the artwork.
Yeah, it's definitely not bad, but it's I think people were just expecting more. So the guy that created this was actually the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, which is probably why it had a little bit of a hype. So yeah, there's like these weird dancing sequences also. It's like kind of cringy, honestly. But as weird as it sounds, it had this huge like negative spike, and then all of a sudden, like the fans of, I think the creator of Sonic came out, and they're like, "I love it. It's not that bad. You know, you got to give it a shot." Everybody's just bashing on it because it's the cool thing to do right now. So, and that's one of the reasons
I
why.
partly agree with that. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think the game's good, but like the artwork gives me like some PS1 like Croc/Spyro vibes.
It's definitely no, it really isn't bad. I am on the camp of it. I don't believe it deserved as much hate as it got. Like, yes, is it something that's going to win some awards or something? Absolutely not.
No.
But when you take into the perspective of it's meant for kids, I feel like it gets a little bit better, and it kind of gives me PS2 vibes. Like, I feel like it's a PS2 game on modern consoles. Not that could be taken good or bad, but honestly, I mean, we haven't really seen like collectathons like this in a while, so it's kind of neat seeing something like that.
Like I said, it gives me those old Spyro Croc feeling, and its intended audience was children, which the like art style that they like cover art and whatnot, it doesn't give me the children, but then once you see like the actual gameplay, you get that feeling. It was just a weird, it's like a fever dream seeing this game. Like in all aspects, it's just a fever dream. It's like, is this real? Like, I don't, what do I do?
I completely missed this game's release. Just
Brad's sitting here holding up his PS5 copy of it.
Sealed, baby.
Sealed.
Is the game cheap?
Yeah, it's really cheap now.
I want to buy it and play it.
Yeah, I bought it because one, I was waiting because of all of the negativity. I think they were trying to get rid of it, and they were like, "We're not printing any more of it." And I'm like, "This bad boy's going to the moon." I'm buying it low. So I was like, whatever, worst case scenario, I'll have something funny to pop in and mess around with. I don't mind. But oddly enough, the user rating on this has a Metacritic of 6.6, which is literally double what we've seen so far, which is pretty wild. So
hey, it's a playable game, so it's instantly a 3.2.
Yeah.
And it has cool art, so that's worth at least another 3.2. And then the 0.4 is the fanboys.
The sad thing is, I feel like they had a good idea of like, hey, you just get different costumes and it morphs you into having different abilities, and you could do this. It's just, I feel like they restricted themselves so much by being like, one button.
Yeah.
One button, boys.
That's probably what did most people in, realistically.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty rough. So, unless we have more to talk about Balan Wonderworld, we can move on to
some of the heavy hitters of the year.
The big dog here. Cyberpunk 2077. So
do we need to say more?
Yeah, realistically, we could just move on from here. This game, actually might be one of the most hyped games I've ever seen flop. I can't think of something bigger.
Definitely the biggest flop I've witnessed.
Yeah. Like, the only thing I could think of that was close to this was actually Batman Arkham Knight was so bad on PC they pulled it from Steam because it was so unplayable. As weird as that is.
Wasn't the game like good on consoles?
Yeah.
It was just a PC port was bad?
Yeah, essentially. So they pulled this game, I think, on PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One S or whatever name Xbox has for.
And they offered refunds.
Full refunds.
Even if you'd passed the 2-hour mark or whatever.
Yeah.
So
it was absurd.
Yeah, pretty wild. I'll let you guys talk a little bit more because you actually both played it.
Mm-hmm.
I own it still. I played it on release, and the first thing that bothered me with the game, which I didn't think was a big thing. But in the cutscenes, you could see yourself in the mirrors. And then once you get into the game and you walk up to a mirror, you're just see-through. And for some reason, like, that is something that Silent Hill had that in, like, the original game. Like, how do we not have that in 2021?
Silent Hill was ahead of its time. That's why. It still is.
True, but still. And then, like, so playing the game, and I was like, okay, you know, it's a futuristic RPG. It has some cool characters, and then, like, after all the hype, you go out into the world, and you're just like, where's the rest of it? Like, there's train tracks up above. There's no train ever, and like, they were talking about how densely populated the city is, and there's so much, and you go out there, and there's like 3 cars that are just like spawning in the middle of the road. You're like, what is this? PlayStation 1? Is this the original Grand Theft Auto? And then there's like 4 people walking around, and like half the time they're either like walking in place or like walking into a telephone pole and just like stuck there, and you're like, oh god, another fever dream. And then like you walk over to look at somebody and you just fall through the map, which happened to me quite a bit, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Or I'd be like in the middle of a mission and go sit in a corner to like heal up, and I would just like start sinking into the ground, and I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
When's the last time you played it
Like
for yourself?
a week within its release, and then I haven't touched it since. I was working at Best Buy when this game released. Within a week, the PS4 version of this game was on sale for $20.
Yep. Oh, I mean, you can get this game probably for $5, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was literally unplayable on the PS4 or Xbox. I mean, it was barely playable on my computer, which, you know, isn't like a low-end PC by any means. It's not obviously a 30 series, but there's no reason. And like, I couldn't play this game on high settings. The frame rate would just be so bad.
So I have 2 friends with top of the line PCs, and they had almost no problems with this game except for their PCs running hot. But I mean, one of my friends still plays it to this day. Like, it's a weekly thing that he plays. So I mean, he's a big fan. But you know, my PC, it's upper middle of the road, and the render distance for everything was just like really short. But I just found the city large but vacant. You know, like it just didn't feel alive, which is, I don't know, not the biggest thing in the world, but it really was the hype.
Like, yeah, like I know you mentioned your friends having like, you know, top of the line PCs. That might help with like some render distance and some textures, but it literally doesn't fix the issues of the core gameplay.
Right. So like even if you like had no render problems, you weren't falling through the map, whatever. Oh my gosh, the vehicle controls.
Oh
my god! Like,
I think I was streaming for Brad, and like I got into like a little fender bender, or maybe it wasn't Brad, but my car literally just started spinning, and I took off like a helicopter, just went straight up into the sky.
I think I actually watched Bravo the most. He played it a decent amount from what I remember, or at least I watched a good chunk of him playing it. And like I said, here's the thing: the game now could be fine. I literally haven't read a single thing about this game since I was listening to the complete crash and burn of CD Projekt Red.
It's still not. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm finding myself more and more that if I get a game and can't play it and enjoy it right away, I just don't touch it. Deathloop, for example. I know it's a very good game, but because of the like lighting issues that I literally haven't touched it again.
Yep. And it also is one of those things where, all right, well, do I want to invest the time into this game that was broken? And is it still broken? Is it not? I don't, am I going to waste another 3 hours finding out? Is it worth me doing that when I could play something I know that works fine? That's where I have issues sometimes with some of these ones going back to them, unless like they've 100% proven themselves. All right, so we'll move on real quickly. The Metacritic score for Cyberpunk on PC it actually has a 7.7, which is pretty wild. And on PS4, though, I want to throw this one out there. It has a 3.7, which I think is high, like real high, because the game runs at like 8 frames per second.
Yeah.
We made the point. 3.2 is the minimum for playable.
Yeah.
And this game was not playable.
Yes, exactly. So
that's the hype. Honestly, the 7.7 kind of is surprising to me.
I think that's surprising too. I'm very surprised.
I feel like we have to like filter out the hype a little bit from this guy, and maybe that 3.7 is actually a 2.7 or a 1.7, and the 7.7 is actually a 6 or a 5.
It could be. It could be people. I've seen them where they like review it before the game even releases. You know,
I thought they started
game ever.
I thought they started blocking people from doing that.
I don't.
They
know.
also
I don't pay
blocked
attention.
review bombers, so people who are rating it like 0.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Anyways, we'll move on to Battlefield 2042, and I think you guys know more about it than I do. His FPS shooter game, competitive. Not Brad.
I don't know, Brad. Your 1% accuracy might do you good in this game because
I think the percent goes down every episode. By the way, it started at 17, and now it's down to 1.
and we're almost at what your actual rating was.
All right.
But no, this game, it had a lot of hype, and I'm really glad that EA gave us the chance to play 10 hours before we had to buy it, because it saved me $70. The game didn't release with a campaign. It's multiplayer only, and you can't find matches. And then when you do find a match, the game doesn't let you get into them. And then the 1 out of 30 you do get into, it's typically towards the end, and you get in, and you're like, all right, doesn't matter, I'm playing Battlefield. And you get your assault rifle, you run up point blank to someone, spray them in the chest, and your bullets don't hit. And you're just like, what?
And this says, "What's that behind me?" And they turn around, and they go, "Pow, pow, pow," and you die.
But the hit registration is awful. I love sniping in Battlefield. I think it's super fun, even though they make the bullet drop ridiculous. I just think it's fun. You can't snipe in this game because the bullets just don't register. You'll clearly hit somebody, and it's just like, what?
Yeah. And every match that I got into, every single match, there was some major graphical errors going on. Like a plane like flying through a building being fine, or like rendering incorrectly or spawning incorrectly, or people doing some crazy things with like interacting with the environment. Like
My favorite is the tank that just drives straight up the side of a building. Like gravity is just attached to anything solid in that game. So if you could get like the whole base of something onto like a flat surface, you could just drive up it.
That's hilarious.
It just doesn't make any sense.
So yeah, I mean,
and it's Battlefield. Like they've been doing this for how long at this point? There's like no weapons in the game.
Oh yeah.
There's like 2 to I think the highest class has 4 weapons, like 4 assault rifles.
Honestly, from a standpoint of like the game, like I could see somebody rationalizing like, assault has this, sniper has this, like you've got like 2 or 3 things to pick from, and that's fine because that makes balancing super easy. But they didn't do it.
That.
Like they I don't know. Maybe if they had made a better game from the get-go, it wouldn't be a problem. But
they also had issues with maps. So like the new game mode, it's like a massive, what is it, like 132 player battle or whatever, or 128, something like that. But the maps are so big that you could literally, like, if you were to just run across the map, it would probably take you an entire match, and you wouldn't see the other end. And there's a chance you wouldn't see an enemy.
Yeah.
Which don't get me wrong, Battlefield is made to use vehicles and all that, but even at that point, like, it's still so big that you don't see enemies. I don't know. The game or the modes and maps literally seem like they are made for battle royales, and they just don't have a battle royale. And there seems to be talk that one's coming,
Yeah.
but at this point, Battlefield 2042 has less players than like Balan Wonderland on Steam.
Yeah,
Familiar.
that's funny. Uh, it's unplayable. So if you're listening, you know this the Metacritic score is gonna be below 3 because it was unplayable the majority of the time. Brad, hit us with that Metacritic score.
2.2.
Dose. Point
Solid.
Once
dose.
again, for the people in the back.
Two. What? 2.2? Threw me off there.
Well, you kind of cut out there. Didn't really get the first.
Oh.
First. It was like 0.2.
I wish it was just 0.2. I love Battlefield, and especially like Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, and Bad Company 2. And this game is just such a stain.
Yeah, we got some boys in the community that were really really hyped about this game, and they went from like the
This
first
is all
evening.
we talk about.
The first evening, they're like, "You getting on? We running? We gunning? Whatever." And like the next day, it's like, "You want to get on and play?" Yeah, we could
play League.
we could try.
It's like-
And then there's just nothing. Poor guys. I'm so sorry.
that one is probably the one that hit me the hardest of the year, personally.
So we can move on to Outriders, which I'm gonna be honest, I still really want to buy this game. This is something that I've been kind of having my eye on, and I actually didn't know that the game had issues. I knew that you guys were playing it when it first came out, but
Yeah. So
it
tell you
looks-
what.
it looks great.
Tell you what. If you want to get it and play the single player or the campaign, do it. I really
By
enjoyed the
yourself.
campaign. Yeah.
It was 100% a good campaign. Like,
Yeah.
it was a
Mhm.
good story.
Honestly, too short. I wish it had more. I wish they had some kind of like season pass or something that I could pay into that they would provide more content. Unfortunately, two sides of the same coin. Fortunately, they took a product and they delivered it, and they're like, "This is what we're doing. Like, we're gonna move on. We might make a second. We might do whatever." But everybody loved it. They just had some pretty weird issues at the
Bad
beginning there.
issues. So
Yeah.
the main issue that we noticed, because a few of us wanted to play this in the group, which they broadcasted that it was, multiplayer through the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all tried to play together. Well, connection just didn't exist in this game. You would just like start running into an area and somebody would just disappear. And you're like, oh, well, let's wait for them. And then they couldn't get back in. And then they
Mhm.
couldn't connect to the servers. And then they would get back in and they couldn't connect. Or they would join back in and then the next person would DC. And it was just like, okay, so that's not going to happen. And then there was, we all played through single player, like at the same time, roughly the same pace. And the game was really fun. And then you get to the end of the game and you're just like, this is it? Like, you
Mhm.
just time trial missions? Like, I don't.
Yeah. And the game, not to ruin anything for Brad, but the story of the game allows for replayability, like with like various missions and stuff, and they're just not really there. It's kind of surprising. It just gets old pretty quick once you beat the game, and I think the end game leveling slash loot collection is just a little bit too on the rails for me.
And it
Mhm.
also wasn't balanced class wise. So, like, Bravo played
Yeah.
the tank class, and he literally was like, in all senses of the word, a useless character in the game.
I have fun. I have
And then,
fun.
like, I played the, like, what was it? The pyro or not the
Yep.
pyro, the green dude. I don't know what his name was, but the one that liked the pew pew,
Mm-hmm.
and he had like the turrets and whatnot. And then turns out my class was broken, so we'd go through and I'd do like 80% of the team's damage, and then the guy who did the pyro would do like 15%, and then Bravo was like, "Hi guys, I helped."
I was a distraction.
Like, he's not tanky enough to like run out and just
Mm-hmm.
like soak bullets, but he doesn't do damage, and his abilities
Hey,
are just
but I stuck with it till the end. Okay.
the end of
And
that week.
yeah, no, I
And then
played a little.
we played that game for quite a bit.
Yeah.
It was really fun, and like the game
Yeah.
was good. And then there was the inventory wipe glitch started, and
Yeah.
I literally wouldn't touch the game because I was so scared to lose everything.
Yeah.
Because that was at the end game,
Yeah.
and like we were pushing level 15 in the end game, which was like the end game. And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not gonna touch it. Like, I'm not gonna lose all of this and have to do it again because like they weren't restoring people's stuff at first, and they said they didn't know that they were gonna be able to. And
Yeah.
apparently they found a way to do it, and I don't know if it actually fixed everyone's stuff. And then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna give you out this free stuff this day," and then this day comes around and there nothing shows up, and everyone's just like, "So, that free stuff." And they're like, "Oh, we couldn't get it this patch. It's gonna be in the next patch." And then the next patch comes around and there's no free stuff, and everyone's like, "So, guys, you
Yeah,
forget about us?"
I would call this one like a soft flop, like a soft fail. It didn't really fail, but it just had some networking issues that I think plague a lot of games for some reason. They just can't get the networking down. And
Yeah.
you know, obviously it must be that hard to do that, but
This game had
It's
so much
terrible.
potential. Like,
I'm sure
it
it's
was there.
I'm sure it's tough when the larger the game is, the harder it probably is. So if it's like obviously if it's like something super small like indie style and you got only maybe 100+ people on that are playing in general, you could probably do that no problem. But if you got 100,000 people trying to play at the same time, I'm
Another
sure
thing
it's tough.
with Outriders is they promised functional crossplay on release. And by the time we started playing, like 2 months after, crossplay still was not an option in the game.
Hmm.
And I know when they originally released this game, they were like, there's going to be no DLC. Like, what we release is it. So, hope you have fun.
Hmm.
And then on Steam now, there's some DLC for it. And I'm like, okay, so what's this? Like, are we turning this into a continuation game? Because
well,
like,
you get
I
so
might
much.
come back.
Yeah, so many people, wanting it.
Like,
Yeah.
I think we talked about this even maybe on the podcast, like real early episodes, because it's been quite a bit. But we wanted more of this game.
Mhm.
Like, so I hope
I
maybe I'll go back and play some more of it, see what's up with it. But
I'll
I'm
probably
scared.
end up giving it a shot once I just decide to pull the trigger on it whenever. I mean, it's at like $20 now. So,
Worth.
yeah.
Easily worth
It's just a matter of time for me to be like, yeah, I'll grab it now.
Like, we binged this game. We all had like multiple characters we were leveling, and I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do get a little scared though when you're saying that it's you have the unbalanced characters and stuff because I do
You
feel like
could
that
beat the
ruins
game with any character. It's the
Okay.
end game that's the issue.
Okay.
No.
I
There's
beat the game with the tank.
there's a single dude, single boss that I'm a very patient guy. But that one boss, I mean, it'd take you 30 minutes.
You're talking about the final boss, yeah?
No, I don't think it's the final boss. It's a big boss, like big tanky guy in a like a ravine or something that you have to fight. And he literally has so much health that like I ran out of bullets. So I had to wait for like his animation so I could like get more bullets from the drops and like keep fighting him.
I've beaten it with all 3 or 4 classes.
Yeah, I just didn't have the damage to do it. I don't know. I don't remember what it was. But
I am certain you could beat it with all 4, as I've done it with all 4.
Mm, I don't know. Yeah, maybe it was just my build. I don't know.
Maybe you just need to get good.
Probably.
Maybe you had like some Brad accuracy.
Probably.
I mean, the thing was a literal mountain, so.
I would still miss it. So clearly, there was a giant sea creature in the ocean, and I couldn't hit this thing.
You sure got that water.
Yeah, that water was dead. I was going for splash damage, right?
Magic you splash.
Metacritic score for this one, users gave it a 5.7.
Extremely low.
Yeah, probably.
I think this probably
bit
should have been
harsh.
the highest rated of the games stated so far.
Mhm. And going on to New World, which I know Bravo was very hyped about. This is Amazon's MMO, and it didn't do Amazon stuff. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even know it was a thing for a while. It came and went as fast as it.
Yeah, we talked about it before, but Joe and I tried to play it together and realized we couldn't start in the same area, so we quit. And that was like the open beta.
Yeah.
And well, whatever. And then the game actually came out, and I had already bought it, so I just gave it a shot.
Which
Played
is why
it.
we don't pre-order games.
Yeah.
This is why, Bravo.
Well, if you haven't played it, it's a doggone walking simulator first and foremost. There's no mounts, there's nothing. All the missions seem to be randomly placed throughout the map, so you're gonna walk like, all the way across this continent to do this goofy little quest. It was horrible. But then the bugs and the glitches started coming out, and essentially there are server side information and there's client side information, and everybody knows from like the late 90s that if you put something client side, that means it can be altered by the user. And for whatever reason, the Amazon developers were like, it'll be fine. So people figured out, and I was watching the YouTube videos because I follow quite a few MMO specific YouTube channels, and they were like, today somebody found a way to duplicate their items on their client, and this is just the beginning because people are finding like by the hour different ways how to alter information that they are controlling on their side. And sure enough, like it was just like this daily stream, and I started enjoying the YouTube videos of how people are breaking the game more than the game. Like I stopped playing the game, and it was like people learned how to duplicate this. Oh, Amazon shut down the whole player marketplace. Oh, by the way, everything in that game is user made and traded, so they literally can't do anything in the game. Oh wait, people found a way to duplicate their money even though the marketplace is shut down. Oh, people learn how to, be immortal and not be killable and like completely break PvP. Like it was just this crazy stuff. And I will never understand why Amazon just did not pull the plug, shut the game down, and start over. The thing that killed this game is the fact they never restarted the economy. After people duplicated monies, they never restarted the doggone game. It's crazy because your economy's screwed, and in a game like that, you cannot have that. Like you have to have a correction.
Is literally like the basis.
It is the game. Yeah. So it's a wild time we live in, and I don't even like. Sure, it's Amazon's like first big game, but they have all the money, so they went out and bought they could have went out and bought the A team. Oh, you're the best graphical designer. Oh, you're the best director of games. They just go buy all these people and they like make a perfect game, and it's just not. It's like elementary problems that they're having.
It literally feels like an indie dev just made like a MMO and threw it out there. And then like things started going wrong, and they like, as an indie dev, you're like, I don't know what to do. and they just were curled up into a ball and cried.
Yep. And there's all kinds of other minor things that the game has, like aggro distance and whatnot. Like you could, with the proper weapon, like a ranged weapon, you could kill a creature before it even got to you because you were on a rock or something or whatever. It's not that big of a deal. All that good stuff.
There was a that kind of reminds me. There was a game, I can't remember what zombie game. It might have been that Day of the Dead, um, or Land of the Dead game that I played a while back, and it's freeware, by the way. So if you want to play it, it's literally free. Um, and if you jump up on a car, the zombies don't have any like climbing or any animation, so they just stand at the car and you just boom. Just shoot him. Oh man, that
That's the realest game I've ever heard. Talking about
game's a
zombies.
gem. Let me tell you, that dude's left hand, his jab, it lays zombies out. It's got it's like Mike Tyson. So, anyways, New World ended up getting a 5.0 on Metacritic for the users. So, not sure if you
This
think
game
that's
deserves
fair.
a 3.3.
3.3. Ooh,
Just
spicy.
above playable.
I will say that the crafting and gathering is what's the word? Like it's nice to do. Like
I feel the opposite. I feel like
they
it's way too tedious for the small amount you gather.
Mm.
I agree with that. And like the things are too long. Like the animations to
Yeah.
like gather rock or whatever, that's too long.
You
But-
spend like 5 seconds and then you pull up like one rock and you need 30
Yeah,
of them.
but
and you're
it's
like,
like-
oh my god.
It's like clean. Like I don't know. It's got some satisfaction to it. But it's laid with problems anyways. So anyways, move on.
Moving on. So, I don't even know who added this, but I'm kind of surprised. Halo Infinite multiplayer.
Yeah.
Show
So I love Halo. Halo multiplayer is fun. This Halo's multiplayer is still fun. I mean, there's some, little glitches here and there. There's rampant cheating in the game, which obviously needs to be fixed and is an issue, especially on the PC portion of things.
They
Some of the-
already have people cheating like
Oh yeah. There's a
That's
ranked system, there's going to be cheaters. Even if there's not a ranked system, if there's online multiplayer, there's cheaters. But there's not an option to turn off crossplay, last I heard. That could have been updated out by the time, this happens, because I haven't been following it because of some of the issues. And they are monetizing the living hell out of this game. Given they released the online multiplayer for free, that anybody could go play it. Super cool for Halo to do. But that doesn't mean we need to pay $20 to make Master Chief a single, like, pixel difference in color. Like, there's Master Chief green, and then there's, like, just the slightest shade lighter green. But to get that's going to cost you $20.
Mm-hmm.
And the armor sets, there's, like, I'm an old school Halo fan where I like the unlockable armor sets. Like the old Hayabusa armor from Halo 3, where you had to go get all of the skulls in the game. In this game, it's like, oh, you want armor sets, huh? Let's see what you got in your wallet.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the season pass thing that it takes forever to level. You get the same amount of points no matter what.
Which they've
So
updated.
They
Like your-
did update.
Yeah, your first game of the day is like 600 instead of 50. And
It
whatever.
still doesn't mean they're doing it in the right way, even with the update. But the update is
Mhm.
better than it was. But on release, it was, if you got into a game, you got 100 points. You can go 0-70, or you can go 70-0. You could AFK. You get 100 points. So, naturally, what are people doing? When they're not playing, they're just going into matches and AFKing and getting their points to level. They did update it, and now you play one game, you get 600 points, and 2 games, you get 500 points for the second game, and that yada yada. But then it still gets back to the point where it's like punishing you for playing the game more.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't feel it's a good system.
It's also not any incentive to do good or bad in the game since you get the same amount of XP. So people just wouldn't play the game. They just screw off in the corner, or get a little robot to jiggle their mouse so they don't go AFK or whatever.
Or do the thing I do and like put a book holding down my A key and run into a wall whenever I'm doing like leveling Sneak in Skyrim at the beginning. You just go by the rock and put something down, and then I'm gonna go have dinner, watch a movie, go for a walk, come back. Oh, I'm still only at 80. I'll go read another book.
So I've been playing a little bit of the Master Chief Collection with a friend because he's trying to get all the achievements, and he's really close. He's just got like the multiplayer stuff left, and so I've been playing multiplayer on the old Halo games, and they are super generous. Like, I have completely decked out my Spartan on Halo 4 with like all kinds of ninja stuff, and I got a sword and all this cool stuff just by playing the game. And it's so disconnected from the new Halo where it's like they monetize the living crap out of everything, and it's just like, what happened?
So even Halo 4
2021
is like where Halo started going downhill.
Yeah.
Like that's where you're gonna see the basis of what it's become. But like Halo 3 and Reach were so much fun.
Yeah.
And now it's just like I mean even Halo in general, like the campaign version of it, there's no co-op. Every Halo has released with co-op. Co-op is like a staple of Halo, playing it with somebody. There's no Forge. Since Halo 3, there's been Forge in, I think, every Halo. It's the biggest part of the community, making their custom game modes. The amount of time I spent playing the Halo on Halo and Halo 3 and with my friends, like, that's where the fun of Halo comes into me. And they just don't have it. It's just an incomplete game.
I do want to...
Probably, I was going to say it's probably because it's not in the same hands as it was from back then.
But it is. 343 has been around for quite a bit, and they're just like a subgroup of Bungie.
For some reason, I thought it might have,
So the original few Halos were made by Bungie.
Yeah.
But they split into like the subgroup 343
Oh,
Studios,
okay.
which is
I gotcha.
Spartan 343. But then Bungie focused on Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do want to take this time to go ahead and shout out the absolute sweat lords on Halo 2 that are still playing that game. I'm just trying to play casually with my friends. I appreciate it if you would just let us capture the flag. Literally one time. Just let me run it down the middle.
I'm surprised you don't find the same thing on Halo 3.
Oh, I did. But I did
Halo
win.
3 is...
Yeah, we did win a few matches.
Halo 3 is my
same
favorite.
People. There's only 3 people playing the game, so you play 3v3, capture the flag, and you're just getting wiped.
Yeah, literally, like they were doing like flanking maneuvers and
you gotta
all
wait
this
till
stuff.
like 2 of them go on a bathroom break at the same time.
You gotta try to queue up and like you gotta try to do it at a different time when they're going to bed or something,
Like get up 4 a.m. grind session.
Yep.
Oh man.
So, this game got an 8.5 on Metacritic though.
There's just no way.
That's what the user. It's not even It's not even like reviewers that were giving this. It's literally users.
It's fanboys, and you can't convince me otherwise.
Nostalgia.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
You know what? I'm gonna ask my buddy, the one that's getting the achievements. I'm gonna ask him what he thinks about Infinite. I'll bring his opinion back to you next time. Interesting.
Good.
Why is his opinion worth any more than mine?
Because he has like 730 out of 745 achievements. I mean, he's just very, very experienced with the game. I want to see what he has to say. Not to say your experience. Well, I've heard your experience. I haven't heard his. How about that? Catch me
I've
outside.
heard his. How haven't you heard his?
Yeah, I don't know.
Moving on.
Onward to
Since
Back
Bravo
for
doesn't care
Blood.
about me.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
true.
So Back for Blood also, we played this together and did a little review and whatnot. I felt the game was pretty solid, honestly. Yeah, it has some maybe I would say difficulty balancing issues.
That's
It
my biggest complaint as well.
Yeah, I would say that would be the biggest thing that I noticed. But other than that, like,
It was Left 4 Dead.
it was Left 4 Dead. There's nothing
2021.
wrong with Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
Left 4
Yeah.
Dead's fun.
The issue was
Yeah.
easy is too easy, but then the next difficulty is way too hard. So you're meant to play through multiple times and unlock different cards because it's like a roguelike. And you got to play through it all on easy, so you unlock a bunch of cards, and then you go play through it on the next difficulty, and then the next one. Well, I don't want to blow through the game. I want to have, a fair challenge, but easy's way too easy, and then medium's way too hard. So it's just like there needs to be like easy plus.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be
But
pretty...
that's literally all I
yeah.
could say about the game. I enjoyed
Well,
everything else about it.
we had connection issues. Do you remember that?
No.
Wow. Okay. When you
We
and
had
I...
like one,
No,
but we fixed it by switching the host.
we had connectivity issues for like a whole night, but that was about it. Like this is just a soft fail for me. I don't know.
I don't even. I personally don't feel this game belongs on this list.
Yeah. And I also feel like the Metacritic score really harsh. 5.3.
So I know, like community-wise, this game it released and then like it had less players than Left 4 Dead 2, like a week later.
Wow.
There's people just have. I mean, Age of Empires 2, perfect example, right? Like, I don't know what is up with fan bases sometimes. Like they get onto one game and they're like, I'm not getting off this.
You
New
leave
game
my
came
people
out.
alone.
I don't want it.
Age of
I don't want
Empires
none of this.
2 is the perfect RTS game.
Well, yeah.
Age of Empires 4
Yeah, boy.
doesn't have enough.
I'm just saying, like, even
I
Left 4
get
Dead,
what you're saying.
right?
It's just
Like
like
Left 4
they
Dead,
get
Left 4
so
Dead 2.
attached.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like those people playing Halo 2 right now. Like, come on, man. At least go
You
to
at
Halo
least need to be
3.
playing Halo 3, yeah.
Yeah,
the
come
good
on,
one.
move up here.
Well, if they were doing what we were doing, we just like checked all the boxes and queued up for multiplayer. So we'd go to 2, 3, 4, whatever, like
You're just playing the same people.
we did play the same
Guy
people
level.
a few times, and we were like, okay, we're gonna back out this time because it was just a steamroll.
So yeah, 5.3. I feel like for Metacritic score for Back 4 Blood
I
seems
feel like
a
it's
bit
low.
I feel like it's a bit low. I
I
would
feel like
say
that
like
should
maybe
be
a
an-
7.
Yeah, I don't feel like this is like an 8 or above just based on the game itself. But
Yeah,
7 I feel is fair.
it's a good game. I'd say like good's about a 7.
You get exactly what you expect to get out of this game.
Exactly. Yeah. And our final game of the night, Marvel Avengers. So this game looked really good. Like honestly, graphically, I feel like it was a pretty game. And so I actually played, no joke, 5 minutes of this game. And I was like, I can't do this. It's literally really rough. So in the game when you start off as a little girl and you're walking around like this amusement park. It's like, listen, I don't care about the story. I just want to be my superheroes and I want to be doing superhero things. That's what I want. All right? It's a simple ask. That's all it is. I want to be Hulk. I want to smash. That's it. So game came out. It was made by Crystal Dynamics, which they they made Tomb Raider, and clearly
We like Tomb Raider here.
yeah, very very good studio. I mean, they're capable of making good things. They were, I just think, put onto the wrong project. That's all. and yeah, just the game I guess was very repetitive. Didn't have and also I believe it was littered with microtransactions as well,
Yeah.
and like things just to purchase all over the place, left and right. So um I don't know why they're pushing these single player games with microtransactions. Are really strange to me,
If I
but
yeah, I could summarize this in one phrase. They missed the mark. Like they they just did not deliver anything anybody wanted to play. Like it was a dead on arrival.
yep.
It's horrible.
I feel like superhero. I don't like superheroes much outside of Batman, but I feel like superhero games are just so hard to get right. Like, there's a few out there, like the Spider-Man games. I know people are nuts over them, the
Yep.
new Spider-Mans. And then there's like the Batman Arkham Knight and Arkham City, and like there's a few, but there's a ton of superhero games, and not many do good.
So
Yeah,
the follow up for this is the Guardians of the Galaxy game that came out. Absolutely amazing storyline, and like the characters had life to them. It was great narration all around. I think it won awards for that. Uh, and it's just like the exact opposite of what this Avengers game was.
they need to know what the audience wants, like whether they're polling like fans, like, hey, what do you want to see? You know, do you want it story based? Do you want it more action based? Do you want, you know, single player, multiplayer, co-op stuff, this, that, whatever? Because I feel like that was the problem is they throw out an Avengers game, which is a cool idea. Hey, here you go. Here's a bunch of your favorite, like here's the all-star cast of superheroes, right? And why did it flop? It doesn't even make sense, you know? Like if you put it on paper, hey, there's gonna be an Avengers game. How big Avengers is, you put some money behind it, and you got a studio like Crystal Dynamics, which has a good track record. Range that it flopped, you know. But
It's a money grab.
yeah,
Completely.
exactly. So, you know, and there are, so here's the weird thing for me. I'm not a huge superhero fan when it comes to like movies, but I do kind of like the games. Like I feel like some of them are fun. So X-Men Wolverine Origins is on PS3 and Xbox 360 is a phenomenal game, kind of like God of War. And it's really brutal and over the top, and it's just a fun game. And, you know, the Spider-Man games are very good. The Batman games are phenomenal. Some of the probably my favorite superhero games are the Batman games, and even Batman on the NES is phenomenal for you know, a 2D platformer. It's like you know, so everybody always thinks that they're rough, but there's been some pretty good ones.
Yeah,
Marvel Avengers ended up getting a 4.9 on Metacritic. So, I probably would say that's pretty fair.
I'd
Yeah.
say it might even be a little high, like a
Yeah.
little, 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say
Everything I've
4.8.
heard.
4.8 at best. Yep.
4.85.
Round to a 4.89.
But Brad said it was our last game, but there's another thing I actually want to mention, and it's the Nintendo Switch expansion pass. So the N64 and Sega Genesis games. Because there was a ton of hype, especially in this Discord, about that coming and having the option to play Ocarina on Switch and Mario Kart online with your friends. And they're going to be adding all these new cool games. Well, it's been a few months now, and we've gotten Paper Mario. Which, don't get me
One
wrong,
game.
I'm super excited that I don't have to spend $100 to buy a physical copy of Paper Mario to play it. Don't get me wrong, but the ports all have issues. Like Ocarina of Time has issues with like textures not loading in correctly. It's the worst port of Ocarina of Time. So
Hmm.
you go in and to fight like Shadow Link, and normally it's like smoky water on the ground. You go in now, it's just like this light blue blob, and you're just like, what am I on? And I don't know. It's there was so much hype, and like we've been asking for this for so long, and
Yeah.
Nintendo is just like, let's just put like our D team on it, like all the
Yeah.
rookies.
Because
Go
there's
make
like
this.
no excuse because there's people who have made these games. I can't think of the word. They made
Talk about like Unreal Engine type stuff, or
emulators
the
and stuff
emulation.
for these that are way better. You know, I don't know. That's a good point.
It's just mind-boggling to me that like there's so many ports of Ocarina of Time at this point. How does the Switch get the worst one? And
Yeah.
like now, like the source code for Ocarina of Time is officially out there that you could get every single dot of code from Ocarina of Time. How is it hard to take that and put it onto the Switch? You could get everything is there. Like
Wondering if it's
public has
something.
it.
Wonder if it's something to do with the features that they include of like the. Not saying this is an excuse, but they're doing that like the save states and whatnot. I'm guessing they built their own on from the ground up, and they might have ran into hiccups rather than being like, "Hey, I'm gonna copy this guy's homework over here because he did it right." You know,
I don't. It's just
Who knows?
mind-boggling. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm at least a dozen playthroughs deep into Ocarina of Time on Switch at this point. But there's also control issues if you're using Joy-Cons. It's ultra sensitive and like impossible to aim the slingshot or the bow. You get the N64 controller they released. Super cool. Plays just like the old one. Which, side note, that controller, I don't know if they're available yet, but if you're playing those old games, 100% worth.
technically I own one, but it's still at my buddy's house.
Brad, it's been like 3 months.
Yeah.
You bought that for your
yeah.
buddy.
Well, so I actually didn't pay him yet for it, so he's just sitting on it. He said if you don't want to buy it, I have no problem holding on to another one. But due to me having only a Switch Lite, it's a little more difficult setting it up and then being like, all right, here we go, because I don't know, like there's no like stand for the Switch Lite.
Yeah. I don't. The controller's super cool, but I don't know. I haven't played Paper Mario yet, but I heard there's also issues with the game. So
Really, it's disappointing, but at the end of the day, I'm not
it's
going on there.
Nintendo. All we know they're gonna mess everything up and do it all backwards.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go and sit down and I don't know, like Mario Kart 64. I'm not gonna sit down and remember how it was when I was a kid 100%, unless something was glaring wrong, right? Like it would have to be something like Rainbow Road was a mud road. It's just brown.
But that's like the thing, like with Ocarina to me is like I do know, and even if you didn't, you'd look at it and just be like, this just seems wrong.
Well, that's the difference of having a game like Mario Kart, which I did. I mean, I put hundreds of hours into that when I was a kid. But you're talking about, I was a kid, and it's been probably close to 15 years since I put a ton of that time into it. And where this is your favorite game of all time,
Yeah.
and
But
you're gonna
even
know
still,
everything.
like you haven't played through all of Ocarina. If I set you into some of these situations, you'd look at it and be like, "That's messed up." Like you don't have to have any background in it. You could just look at it and say something is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I got into the Deku tree and I couldn't move forward. I had to put it down.
You had to put the Deku tree down?
I got into the Deku tree.
You're making it far.
I'm almost done. I heard you fight that spider thing and then you're done.
Dude, my mind's eye of the Deku tree, I'm like, this is a 3-hour event. This is the rest of the evening. And then I went back and played it and I was like, oh,
that's it.
I've done it. Man, the Deku tree's got like 9 levels and I gotta like climb a thing and beat a spider. Oh.
This is a lot easier than I remember.
That's interesting.
And then you get in the water temple, and you're like, well, I'm still big dumb.
This is as hard as I remember.
That's exactly what I remember. I'm done.
Alrighty, boys. That is all we had to talk about today. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I enjoyed myself. Glad to be back at it after the holidays. Smash that like button. Destroy the subscribe button. Comment under the video why Joe is wrong about something. I don't even care. Just like let him know, you know. And yell at us on Twitter at envision_org. We love you. I hope your mother's fine. And goodbye.
Oh, your mother.
Love you.